Point me. Okay. 1783. Everyone's still talking about the 400 unpaid veterans of the Revolution storming unarmed Independence Hall while the Confederation Convention is trying to do something, who immediately decamped. We want to get paid. You gave me a pay slip. And the Continental Congress, when the war was going on, printed money with no collateral. And now I get a pay slip and you don't know where to find the money. Because most of the states didn't have a good system for collecting taxes, especially in the territories and the outlying areas where the soldiers came from. In other words, nothing is right. Now, George Washington, of course, this is the kind of thing where you watch George Washington, where he goes, it goes. September 1784, lots of clocks. This is all leading up to, not gonna take long. George had come, saw his brother Charles and had him repeat, and his whole mission was to come out here and see, can I find a way of using the Potomac River to provide for us an economic boom to make money off of the rich resources in the hinterland? Can we make the Potomac River passable, connecting those rich resources with the coastal ports? And you know, George, there's no second thing. It's totally serious. And he's at Berkeley Springs. He was at Throgmorton's Tavern, Throgmorton's Hotel, but he was also in the tavern called the Liberty Pole and Flag. And the conversation goes like this. Good afternoon. Hello, General. What brings you up here? I'm looking to find a way to have a navigational upstream, downstream, connecting the resources inland with ports that can sell elsewhere and get us money that we need. Do you know why we need money? We owe $70 million period money. And there's no collateral, and the French especially gave us all this money. And if we don't do something quickly, like find money through trade with the hinterland, our dollar will be worth 2 cents on the exchanges in France, and we are done. And so the guy's listening, that's interesting. I said, excuse me, sir, my name is James Rumsey. And now you're talking about going upstream, right? And you'd be really interested in a vessel that can push up against the current, right? Yes, I am. Now, James is a fast talker. He didn't have this, the tube boiler working yet, but he did have one with paddle wheels. And he gets George down to the dock, because James, oh boy, Rumsey was a charmer. He was so, but he asked something, he shows him a boat that goes against the current with paddle wheels. George gives him his signature that, ever so careful, Rumsey has the way to go upstream and I support it. I'm gonna form the Potomac Company. And I am gonna pursue this commitment. I'm gonna pursue this trade, and my ultimate goal is this trade because of his invention. You're, Mr. Rumsey, he said next August, you're gonna be in charge of supervising, clearing all the rocks around what they call Shenandoah Falls, also Harper's Ferry. So you're hired, you make it work. What happened next? Nothing worked. Because the states did not know how to tax, they did not have labor, they had a labor shortage. Different states were doing tariffs against one another. Each state had their own currency. And this is when George found out how bad it really was. And here's what he said. I'm working for unborn millions, he once said that, but without alteration of our political creed, this superstructure that the 7 years we have been raising at so much expense in blood and treasure must fail. We are rapidly verging on anarchy and chaos. So he's going ahead with the Potomac Company. Already he's met with his bros, his leaders, political leaders in Mount Vernon. Talk, what are we gonna do? There's all these problems between us, Virginia and Maryland, making an agreement on the Potomac, which Maryland controls. But there's problems everywhere. We gotta go, this is a bigger problem, let's go. Next thing you know, this is when you always want a little brainy guy like Jimmy Madison. Well, well, General, I have been researching hard as I can all of the republics that have ever been attempted in the world. A lot of them are kind of teensy and tiny, but I envision the world's largest republic. I see it. I see the possibility. It's the Enlightenment, and we're going to be a proof of concept for the whole world that a republic big can work. And so good old George, just, he's got some great surrogate sons all around, Hamilton, Lafayette, Madison, and Madison started waiting. We need a convention. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Okay, Washington, ever cautious. All right, go ahead, announce a convention in Annapolis, not a big city, just start the process, okay? And about 5 states came. And Washington was not yet to commit to be president. He's a realist. Most things screw up. Remember the Revolution? Remember the Articles of Confederation? Most things screw up. George was never fooled on that. This is what's fascinating. The hidden engine in the Constitutional Convention is how the mind of Alexander Hamilton and Washington's were in gear. Not all of Hamilton's mind, thank God, but the financial part. And what happens is, it was a complete chance thing. Delegates were selected who said, hey, we want you to come down to Annapolis and be part of this convention, okay? And most people were like, yeah, whatever. Well, you're gonna go, okay. You're gonna go, okay, yeah, okay, whatever. And New York picked three delegates. Only one showed up because they didn't give a damn. So what? It's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. Alexander Hamilton. You know why he's excited? This tells you a lot. He wasn't gonna come. But of course, when he meets Madison, sparks fly. Because they both want a big country. Hamilton's not sold on the Constitution yet, but here's the thing. He said, Washington knows him well enough. Washington was with him in Valley Forge while 2,000 men starved, were naked in winter, dying of disease. 2,000. They both watched the men die while the British officers went to the local commerce, went to the local butcher and everything, gave them real money and got what they wanted. Our Continental Convention, our Continental Convention couldn't find the damn money for guys who were dying. And Washington never forgot it. He said, no one ever teaches the letter Washington wrote to a friend. The sacrifice of these men is beyond comprehension. It's unimaginable what they were willing to do. You can see the greatness starting. But they both saw, if you're not going to be just a victim surplus country, you damn well better know how to have money available to fight a war. And not only, so that memory is lingering there. He knew, Washington and he both knew, this is the first thing you got to worry about. You don't even. Okay, I think it's a little backbeat. Sorry. So Hamilton is 59. He's like 20, early 20s, or mid-20s. Do you know what makes him really excited? Why he's suddenly interested in politics? Who knows who William Pitt the Younger is? Good. William Pitt in 83 became the prime minister at age 23/24. And Alexander is going crazy, loving studying the mechanisms of the Bank of England. This is right, really speaking everything. And this guy's younger than me, and he's prime minister. Oh, suddenly he likes politics. And George trusts him to a certain extent.
He doesn't want to miss his shot.
Yeah, here's my shot. Join the troop. I'm gonna get my shot. It's so true. It's so true. Oh, man, you're right on it. But you can see it, man. It's possible. And if you look up William Pitt the Younger, he was one of the greatest. He lived in like 1810. There was no fluke. He was like Thomas Cromwell, practical, got it done. And why Hamilton is there and meeting Madison, that also makes it, this is possible. It's not just me. He sees a political thing, and Madison says, they think they're talking the same thing, but they're not really. But Madison's saying, yeah, we could really, really big republic. You're not gonna have factions that take over. It's gonna be so vast, so complicated, so diverse, so easy to work out. There's so many possibilities. They're gonna work it out. That's not the way we didn't think it worked out. But he says, a great republic solves the problem of factions taking control. It never occurred to them, they team up. And Alexander Hamilton says, yeah, I'm reading Adam Smith, Wealth of Nations, free markets, all that. He's not as idealistic as Madison. He's still gonna be rich and poor. I'm not worried about that. But they are saying the same thing, and they both go to George. Be president at our convention. It's gonna happen now. And he goes, okay. So here we are. And this is where anybody who's in that class, Shays' rebellion happens, just like they predicted. Let me see what I wrote 20 years ago. Shays' rebellion in Massachusetts, spring of 1787, was a glimpse into the violent future that frightened all the states, 12 states, not Rhode Island, who answered positively to James Madison's invitation to pick and send delegates to the upcoming convention. Don't mess with the guy's ability to make booze. So it's happening. And this is the point where we quote our beloved William Butler Yeats. What did he say? All things they undertook, what they undertook came to pass. Everything hung like a drop of dew upon a blade of grass. That is the beginning of the Constitutional Convention. And do you know why they did it? Even though it sounds crazy? Well, anarchy isn't fun either. It's the Enlightenment. And we're gonna be the proof of concept for the whole damn world. And that's pretty easy to think about. It certainly points to that. Okay, here we are at the convention.
We share it.
All we're gonna do is tell me when you're ready. Got you all set up. Okay.
Well, they come across this.
Tell me when you click. Well, what's happening is,
Yeah.
this just summarizes what I just said. Okay, this is the perfect moment. We have been taught over and over again, oh man, Madison and Hamilton, man, what if they did, what would we have done without Madison and Hamilton? They didn't do very well at the Constitutional Convention, and that's not even a stretch. But do you know what? What we have to history, teachers, if you're a teacher, nothing is more wonderful than 100 copies of the Federalist Papers to teach the Constitution. But what they forget to tell you, this is the great contribution truly Madison and Hamilton did, these Federalist Papers, along with John Jay. They don't tell you that they were signed by pseudonyms let's remember that legally, there is no vote, there's no legal binding. Bunch of guys' opinions without their name on it, and they only were sent to 4 newspapers where? In New York. So what?
Signed Publius.
Yes. And so the whole thing is, historians, if you're a teacher, you can't resist using them. And you really, what it is what Hamilton did more than anything was sell the Constitution to a very, very fierce opposition in New York. Nothing to the Constitution, which you'll soon find out. This is the famous painting by Mr. Christie. And frankly, he really tried to make them painted as they looked. We all know who this guy is. I call him Yoda. He's like 81. The average age is about 40. And he would say Yoda-like things, which you're going to find out. And he knew damn well what he's talking about. Ben Franklin, right next to him, this is supposed to be Alexander Hamilton. These two didn't talk very much, trust me. But they understood each other basically. Although they both wanted a strong, good country. Here's Manasseh. Sat in the front row, taking copious notes, which almost wiped out his health. One of the most frequent speakers, but he had all of the tools in his head. He's proved to be very politically maladroit. And you'll find out soon enough, it's not me. Well, you know who really saved the day? 2 old guys you don't hear about. Roger Sherman of Connecticut. Anybody with Connecticut, be proud. When you signed he's a judge in the 60s, when you signed every single important document that birthed the country, you're seriously good. And John Rutledge, South Carolina, that really had the whole southern. These 2, what they figured out on their own, really got it through.
That was Roberts. Was his last name Roberts, did you say?
John Rutledge of South Carolina. And now I'm gonna demonstrate why. I'll be going time. Okay.
20 minutes in.
Here's what it is. But that's the thing, and another good thing that might make you happy is you're gonna see all the direct quotes of guys in the process. A whole bunch of these people were not major players. This guy was James Wilson of Pennsylvania. Speakers, Gouverneur Moore, where is he? Come on, Gouverneur Moore. Gouverneur Moore's here. Oh, funny guy, he had a sharp wit. Washington went trout fishing with him while the committee of detail was working. William Samuel Johnson, future president of Columbia University. He was that judicial review guy. He's the kind of real subtle. He just changes 3 words and it means 10 times better. And you'll hear about it, he's real subtle. But he was chairman of the committee of style that does the final polish. Oh yeah, he's important. And so it goes. But the good news is most people are just kind of humbugged and listening, but throwing up their hands. What are we gonna do? All right, here we go. We heard about that. And remember what I said, what they undertook to do, they brought to pass all things, hang like a drop of dew upon the blade of grass.
Did Yates write that
Yeah.
with them in mind?
No.
No, but it's very apropos.
And absolutely, you're all gonna find a place where you can quote that. You always sort of sound like you know what you're talking about. And I referred to this first meeting with people to get the Maryland thing going, and it still didn't help. And then he hires Rumsey. Oops, missing S there. And then the meeting, this is what I'm getting at. 5 states represented, Alexander Hamilton gets involved completely by chance. He's the only one that shows up. But he's reading about the Bank of England. And if you're him and you're only 24, 27, I think. William Penn is a massive motivator. Hamilton's almost chance appearance, this is what I said. He and Washington, after witnessing the suffering and deaths at Valley Forge, know better than many of the imperative, better than many, the imperative of having a country that can fund war and have good credit. Hamilton will speak a financial tongue at the convention, foreign to agrarians. Okay, and see, don't you love it? Somebody's got a whole key of who is who. But you don't need to do that. There's no quiz. It begins. All right, it's supposed to start May 14th, but no quorum. Then May 25th it begins and people finally start trickling in from all over the place. These are people with lots of responsibilities, think about it. And they take a whole summer. Maybe they were bankrupt when they got it. So here they come, and a committee of rules was formed by Pinckney, Mr. Gorham from Massachusetts, Hamilton. I don't know what it is about Hamilton, but sometimes the choices aren't good. He's on the committee and he recommends a guy to be secretary, Colonel Jackson. Never mind that Jackson had no experience doing this. And Ben Franklin had a secretary who knew all about note-taking in France. But Hamilton, that was another kind of amusing side note that what? Hamilton, we haven't found hardly any documents that Jackson wrote. You know, and this is where you just worship Madison. He almost killed himself getting notes. But suddenly, where's I try to find and get Colonel Jackson note for me. Tell me, let me know. It's so human nature, you know. Okay, it begins. When the Confederation Convention hears Washington will be president, a call goes out in February of that year saying, go to Philadelphia, all states, go to Philadelphia. We're going to revise, not replace, revise the Articles of Confederation. Well, that gets everybody. It's a little, you know, weasel words. The first people to show up have a far different plan. So it begins, they have all kinds of good rules about secrecy. Don't tell anybody what we're doing, and so on and so forth. You can guess. Now, now it starts getting warm. May 29th, Edmund Randolph of Virginia. Remember, he's current acting governor of Virginia. Presents 16 points of the Virginia plan. It is a government of executive, judiciary, and legislative branches. And everyone's going, what? That's not the Articles of Confederation. And they kind of, you can just see them saying, we know. And you know what? It passed 6 to 1 to 1. And not all the states are there. Think of 9 being the, yeah, you know. Well, there's handfuls of delegates, each representing one state. 6 states said yes, 1 was against, and 1 was tied. The point is, they won the game of not revising, but replacing. And people thought, you know, it is pretty bad, but that's not the next issue. The next issue is trust. And right away, you don't trust them because they pop this on you without you knowing. Not a good start. May 31st, people elect the lower house, you know, popular representation. That passes 6-2-2. This is good. Well, here we go. Now it gets sticky. Finally, it's getting into the brains of the small states what this whole Virginia plan's all about. It's not very good for them. Then things start rattling. Wilson comes off kind of nice. Wilson's one of the big state guys fighting for all the Virginia plan. The government ought to possess not only first, but the force, and secondly, the mind and the sense of the people at large. Good. Looks like we're gonna be able to go home early. Sounds good. Watch out. Oh, Lord. That's June 6th. Then it starts getting not good. Madison's pushing way too hard. You know, he's young. The power of his mind is sufficient as far as he's concerned. The power of his ideas should override everything. This is very important. It took me a long time to understand this. Why did Madison pound away so hard for equal representation based on population, no matter what? And what they call Aristotelian rhetoric, which is what all these old lawyers were familiar with, is a matter of addressing only opinions and facts that support the opinions, no certainties. James Madison believed that the right for everyone to vote is one of those certainties. He was the one, he's all about the Bill of Rights. He's the one, a few years earlier, a little while ago, they're drafting the Constitution on Civil Rights or Human Rights in the Virginia column. George Mason is there too, and old George Mason, he's kind of still doing the old weasel word about rights or worship. Mason's still using the words toleration. You know, toleration is not a good word. Toleration says you have a right to do anything you want unless you don't like it. Madison struck it out and said rights to worship according to your own conscience. He changed the world. So now you know this is an article of faith of him about the individual. And this is where it gets interesting. This is where Roger Sherman will clarify. He says, were we not thence admonished to enlarge the sphere as far as the nature of government would admit, this was the only defense against the inconveniences of democracy consistent with the democratic form of government. All civilized societies would be divided into different sects, factions, and interests. In all cases where a majority are united by a common interest or passion, the rights of the minority are in danger. And you would think he's agreeing with Roger Sherman, the small states. What Roger said, okay, let's keep going. Let's start seeing the heat heating up. Let them unite if they please, William Patterson, but let them remember that they have no authority to compel the others to unite. New Jersey will never confederate on the plan before the committee. She would be swallowed up. He had rather submit to a monarch, to a despot than to such a fate. You see the little bubble starting on water. Something's wrong. Madison is hitting to her because he believes it's an article of faith. This is the big day. Huge things happen. Wilson, who you've heard, makes a motion for representation based on population with each enslaved person, here we go, treated as 3/5 a person. Surprise. It passes 9-2. Boy, does that throw your preconceptions out? Yeah, everyone's going, yeah. That's everybody but who? I'll tell you, New Jersey and Delaware, they all have no problems with it. Now you're starting to think. This is huge. Roger Sherman, the wise man, Connecticut, motion for one vote per state. They've already passed equal representation by population in the lower house. One vote per state in the upper house rejected. 6-5. That is what they eventually decided on. Can you imagine what he thinks? Where are we going? This is really, it makes all the sense in the world. And this is one of the most brilliant things at this moment. Sherman goes, look, even Madison's getting rude. He's calling Ellsworth of Connecticut bad faith. Madison doesn't know about compromise, negotiation. You know, I have to laugh. If this was at least half of this group of men were women with law degrees, they would have allowed maybe 1 or 2 people to talk 5 or 6 hours. Then they would take a motion to start a committee. The women would go to committee real fast, and the most properly selected people will solve it without a lot of rhetoric. That's just my side comment. But the thing that Roger Sherman says to Madison is this. The question, young Jimmy, my insertion, and you are young, you take as a natural right as being the thing that's important. What is important is guaranteeing equal and effectual protection for everybody. You can just see the miss. Madison's all equal rights, and Roger Sherman says, no, our job is a operational thing. It's not a sermon. Madison didn't hear it. He's not listening. As tempers rise, Yoda says, we are sent here to consult, not to contend with each other in declarations of a fixed opinion, certainties, and of determined resolution never to change it, neither enlighten or convince us. This is what they did. Now we're back to the three, we have to say a little more about three-fifths vote. This count determines the number of seats, this count, the impact of the three-fifths of the benefit. If we pass, and we have, still worried, this count would determine the number of seats in the House of Representatives, the number of electoral votes each state would be allocated, and how much money the states would pay in taxes. See, it's starting to sink in. Slave-holding states wanted their entire population to be counted as to determine the number of representatives those states could elect and send to Congress. Free states wanted to exclude the counting of state populations and slave states, since those states had no voting rights. People are starting to sense something. You notice they caved really fast on it. They're starting to feel, we don't have this, we're gone. They're starting to feel Rutledge's pressure. We have to have this. Yeah. Let's get that. I think that's a repeat. The vote was 9 states aye, only 2 nay. What do you got that? Here's where it boils over. Rufus King, big state. I mean, just politically. This is what he said. This inequality in the appointment of representatives was not misunderstood at the adoption of the Constitution. He said this later. The effect of this concession has been obvious in the preponderance which it has given to the slaveholding states over the other states. The concession was, at the time, believed to be a great one, and has proved to have been the greatest which was made to secure the adoption of the Constitution. Everyone says, given the time and circumstances, we did this and such. Okay, Madison's still hammering away. Madison's still not listening to the fears that are rising in Delaware, New Jersey. And this is what you start getting. Mr. Madison, you see the consequence of pushing things too far. Some of the members from small states wished for just 2 branches in the Generalist legislature and are friends to a good national government. But we would sooner submit to a foreign power, wake up, than submit to be deprived of an equality of suffrage in both branches of the legislature, and thereby be thrown under the domination of the large states. Madison's not listening. Oh, here we go. I'd like to think this is new stuff to you. Hamilton is watching this. He's got his own idea. His head's teeming with his own ideas. He's not thinking, he's thinking a totally different thing. Financial, not like anything. But what he's watching is everything's coming to a dead halt. Everybody's stuck. This is my moment to speak. I'm gonna throw my stuff in there, even if they like it or not. I'm just gonna throw it out there, because that's typical Alexander Hamilton. Win it down, go all out. Seeing the dead like an opportunity to insert himself in grand breach, Alexander Hamilton speaks long and eloquently for 6 hours. It's like filibustering. his first and last address. Notice that? The convention calling for life terms. He calls for life terms for senators, the president, the Supreme Court justices, and with the House representatives serving to enforce good behavior is ridiculed. Like, where are you? Where are you coming from? For being a monarchist. Gouverneur Morris is a strong advocate because they're on the same side, they want a big government. Hamilton's precocious grasp of financial strategies, while being only one of two present able to solve the debt problem along with Mr. Morris, nevertheless scares the majority of the land owning agrarians present. He speaks in a different tongue. Land and money are not truly alike as commodities. What am I saying? I just read this incredible essay in the July 2025 William and Mary Quarterly by a woman from Harvard Law School named Christian Dessin. During the Enlightenment, an idea got set down in people's minds that had been stubbornly holding on, that money, just like land is a commodity, money is a commodity. Land is a commodity, money is a commodity. They're just both commodities that exchange. And this stubborn idea held on for years and years and years and years. And what she says is, no, money is a system, a practice of value, not a commodity. A practice of value, a system that is the respiratory system that drives the economy. And so if you're watching all these agrarian guys, land cannot morph into 100 different other dividing system forms, right? Land is land is land. With finance, where you financialize the economy, it starts coming with all kinds of weird instruments. And they don't know this, but they're a little nervous. They know something's going on here and they're scared.
Yeah, Jim.
Yeah.
That was a wonderful analogy about the difference between money and commodities.
Yeah.
But I'm a little unclear as to is that your own summary of that?
No.
Who was
No,
expressing?
okay, here's what he says. I said that was the law professor at Harvard, wrote a very long essay on how we, and she said it was an express idea of the Enlightenment and the convention that money is commodities, land are commodities. And that would explain why, and she said it starts there at this time, this idea is minted. And that's all I'm saying too. He says the following things. The key thing is he's not thinking even of three-part government. It's actually a monarchist idea. Yeah.
So one part government,
Pardon me?
so one part government.
Yeah, yes, but now this is, remember I said William Samuel Johnson is this classic, subtle, little legal words that change everything. I'm really impressed by him. He had to say something. You know what his diary said after Hamilton talked all day? There's no entry, it just says Hamilton. Get this. This is the whole point. William Samuel Johnson connected implying Hamilton, who had a minor, partially present role in the convention. While the centralized Virginia plan and the New Jersey favoring smaller states had both been proposed, Johnson then stated, a gentleman from New York with boldness and decision proposed a system totally different from both. See, the agrarians said something totally different. He's talking about financial stuff, debts. It is a different language. Totally different from both, and though he has been praised by everybody, he has been supported by none. At this point, the other two delegates said from New York, we don't agree with you at all, Al. We're going. And guess what? You have to go too, because your vote doesn't count. This chief doesn't count. He never voted once. And so Hamilton had to go back kind of tail between his legs, he found out he didn't do convention very well. He overplayed his hand just like Madison, they're both young. And, this is, remember I said the connection with George and here's where you see it. George knows Alexander, he knows he goes over the top and stuff. Let me jump 2 images here. Oops, I'm revealing stuff. The whole point is, I'll just say this. After Hamilton's gone, during a break, Hamilton starts writing to Washington. This is very personal, very touching. He said, he wrote this, he said, everything is going down the drain. Washington was always a pessimist. I regret ever doing this. He's sort of doing this for Hamilton's benefit, really, a friend. And he says, please come back. You get it? It's really touching. Please come back. You know, I know, you have a role. Just please come back. Don't give up. Washington, Churchill said Washington always could keep him within the guardrails. As soon as Washington's gone, he starts making mistakes.
Did Washington know at the time that he had, presented this rather,
Oh, he was president.
well, I know, but, oh, so he did
Yeah,
know?
yeah, he saw the whole thing just go down the drain. Even Madison did what he did. He didn't even know what we're talking about. So it's going from bad to worse. Now we're getting to incredibly dramatic moment number 1. Oh, man, I love it. But remember, they said they're all civil, civil, sorry. Some of you are looking at Maryland like this. What's going on? Connecticut are 3 brilliant people, Roger Sherman, Oliver Ellsworth, and William Samuel Johnson. You've already got a sense of their great skills. And they're the voice of small states. And they're eventually going to strategize with Rutledge and get somewhere. Luther, you know the context of this is? Luther Martin agreed completely with the other small states, completely with Oliver Ellsworth. But here's Oliver Ellsworth just tearing him to pieces. Now you understand? Luther, we're trying to persuade people. We need you to be calm, and the thing, you're really making our life, we're gonna make us lose. This is what this, you know what he said? The day you took your seat must be long remembered by those present. It's an ally. Not will it be possible for you to forget the astonishment your behavior almost instantaneously produced, when without requesting information or let it be into the reasons of the adoption of what you might not approve, you opened against them in a speech held during 2 days, how about that? In which might have continued for 2 months, but for those marks of fatigue and disgust you saw strongly expressed on whichever side of the house you turned. This is another failure.
That was Ellsworth writing,
Yeah, and it's an ally. You're killing us, man.
yea for the written word.
Yeah, see, they didn't want it. I love, if you write the history of Maryland or the biography of Luther Martin, that ain't there.
Yeah.
But I want to point out, you can always see that I have sources. Now, at this point, it is serious, really, really serious, because Sherman said, I already tried. What are they gonna do? And I have to tell you something. Senator Byrd was upstairs one day. He just spoke over across the street, and there was a line out the door, down the window, all these kids wanting to get one of these autographed. Well, I happened to have been a county commissioner. I knew Martha and McIntosh's appointment secretary. Nobody spent more time in a car driving everywhere than Martha Ann. I was at her house and the phone rings and he just starts unloading to Martha Ann. Here's what happens. She sees me, here, come on. Yeah, come on, takes me up to the front of the line, Bird's right upstairs autographing in a little chair. And he's gonna autograph this for me. And while he's signing things, I bent over and whispered in his ear. I have served it a long time, in Bird's ear. And the longer I live, the more convincing proofs I see that God governs us in the affairs of man. And Senator Bergman. But that's. Okay, I'm done.
You recognize the.
Oh, God, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no, exactly what I said. I didn't say the whole thing, but I said, and if this is what I said, is if a sparrow cannot fall to the ground without his notice, is it probable that an empire can rise without his aid?
Well, that's beautiful.
I love the guy. But listen to this. This is Yoda. He says, people, we're almost on the edge. Sir, in the sacred writings that except the Lord build a house, they labor in vain that build it. I firmly believe this, and I also believe that without the concurring aid, we shall succeed in this political building no better than the builders of Babel. We shall be divided by our partial local interests. Our projects will be confounded, and we ourselves shall become a reproach and byword down to future ages. Who said it was a nice little convention? See, look, the more you live, the more you know that Franklin or Washington are whole other category. Pretty powerful. And it's so close. The lesser state gentlemen do not trust you. If you possess the power, the abuse of it could not be checked. And what then would prevent you from exercising to our destruction? Leave it just at that. I repeat, this, I repeat, is language calculated only to amuse us. June 30. Oh, this is great. 30 days after September, April, June. Saturday. And they're off on Sunday. That's July 1, right? And July 2 is Monday. Who has Georgia? It's right here in between us. Okay. The delegate from Georgia are 4. The key guy is Abraham Baldwin. Now listen carefully, it's Saturday. And everybody said, God, Lane, we have to just stop, it's getting worse. Let's pick it up on Monday. Roger Sherman, the voice of Connecticut. Young Abraham Baldwin is a delegate who, remember the last vote on June 11th on Roger Sherman's motion? He just arrived and couldn't quite get what was going on. No, because Georgia wants everything, they think of themselves as a big state because of a lot of territory. No, he's one of the no's. He went to Yale. He's a Connecticut guy. Do you think that on that Sunday or Saturday night, there wasn't a little conversation between his idol, Roger Sherman? You could just see Abraham, we will leave. Abraham, we will leave. This has got to be one of the most incredible moments. The vote starts. They go north, working south. Georgia's the very last one. And it's tie. And Georgia, everyone knows Georgia's gonna say no too. We're all gonna leave. This time there aren't 4 delegates. There's just Mr. William Houston, who voted no, and Abraham Baldwin. They said they're gonna leave. And it gets around to Baldwin. Houston, nay. Wait a minute. Get it right, let me get this right. There is a vote on having equal representation in the upper house. The one that failed already won 6-5. And that means that if you vote yes, you want to have equal representation. No, no. House said no. Baldwin, aye. Tie. A tie. It failed. And this is this great moment. We are now at full stop. And nobody supposed meant that we should break up without doing something. A committee, he thought, must likely to hit on some expedient. And right away, CC Pinckney from South Carolina moved for a committee to solve this. This tells you tons about Wilson and Madison. We don't need a committee. What a brat. It's for compromise. We don't want a committee. Well, let's all pick one delegate from every state. When it came to Virginia, Edmund Randolph. Sorry, Jimmy. Comes to Pennsylvania. Ben Franklin. Okay, we heard you don't believe in committees? Okay, you're not on the committee. Get out of here. And that committee went to work on finding a compromise. That's how close it was. Roger Sherman, it was a tie. He doesn't get much credit for that. And he became the president of the University of Georgia. He'll become college president. So let's see, deadlock vote 5-5, all that. He kind of plays it down, but let's keep going. This is just kind of convenient, says all that. They're eventually going to get to the great compromise, which is simply what he wanted it on June 11th. Proportional in the House and equal in the upper house. Here's what I said, that they called a convention. And within the committee, they're arguing and they really know they got to come up with an answer or else. Eldridge Perry from Massachusetts is in that committee. If no compromise should take place, what will be the consequence? A secession? Secession would take place, 2 different plans would be proposed, and the result no man could foresee. We do not come to some agreement amongst ourselves. Some foreign sort will probably do the work for us.
Jim, I know this is being recorded and I will probably watch it. In fact, I will, but all of this is in your video.
No.
Well, that up at the top, it says that this particular
That's
slide.
okay, that's okay. Just what I'm doing now. No, but the answer is no. Remember I referred, this is I'm going back briefly.
Jim,
During this deliberation, Washington is they're all waiting for something to figure out of the committee. This is when he tries to offer this touching support for Alexander, who's not gonna come back until the very end, and they the committee of trust.
Jim, so I think the question is, this up top, this 19-39 in video, Rocky Road to,
Oh, okay.
what is that referencing?
The text of the picture.
Right, I'm just saying this, I use this, that is a source, a factual source.
Of what you're showing us.
Yeah,
the text.
well, no, down here is Farad, this is the real source. See, I'm showing you real sources, these are about as good as you get.
Okay,
Farad is the ultimate source. Now, wasn't that dramatic? This is the one they never tell you about. This is situation 2. We have about half an hour left.
Yeah, 30 minutes left.
Okay, good. Remember I said 3 things that involve Jefferson County? Rumsey, Rumsey, you're in the mix, good for you. And how many of you know about the Fairfax proprietary grant, the 5.2 million acres? Really, this whole, watch what happens here. How on earth, what was behind Virginia? Just block all this up for a second. We're now talking about something happening. It's an amazing at the Confederation Congress, the electeds, simultaneous with the Constitution. And historians make you think that they're not talking to each other. The hell they aren't. This is an incredibly choreographed thing. And do you know why we know it's choreographed, this Northwestern Ordinance? The man behind it, the day it passed, he's not sitting in Congress. He's sitting under the mulberry bush with Ben Franklin. He came down, and Ben Franklin's showing him this two-headed snake, and he's showing his printing press, he's showing all this stuff. And he's there because he has been going back and forth telling Ben what's going on in Congress, and Ben telling him what's going on here, regardless of rules. And he comes down and he wants everybody to know it passed. Today, Friday, it passed. And now I'm going to tell you why it's super important and why our situation here had everything to do with it. It seems crazy that Richard Henry Lee, our congressman, was all for it and abolished slavery for all would become all the Ohio 6 states. Why would Virginia give up all of that claim to the Northwest Territory, most theirs, to become other states? Why? And also abolish slavery. And Richard Henry is so proud, he got a letter off that Washington got on Monday. It doesn't make sense. I'll tell you why. Here's the answer. First, it didn't have anything to do with the southern states expanding west. In our county, they had a nightmare. Lord Thomas Fairfax in his 20s inherited 5.2 million acres that ran from Fairfax County, whoosh, all through our area, and west of the Allegheny into this, simultaneous with approvals for developers from the north, Hike and others who were not ignoring all his claims. They were settling willy-nilly all over Jefferson County. That's, just, if you live there, if you have 3 years, you own it. 3 years, you own it. No surveys, 3 years and you own it. Nothing of significance happened for 50 years. 1734 to right after the Revolution, when all of them were done, when Hyde was dead and Fairfax was dead, all of this was locked up in land disputes. Nobody did a decent survey from the beginning. Why did Washington want this? It's so unbelievably savvy. All these officers, Cutler especially, all these Revolutionary War veterans who did have money, and Washington, he made sure all the land that they were going to be given. Let's read this. Friday, July 13th. That point is that stymied situation here, which made Virginia say, damn, we have to settle the West. It has to be surveyed first. Then people are going to go and settle and spend money and be productive and pay off our debt. Suddenly it goes, yes. So July 13th, Congress approves the Northwest Ordinance, a joint, not a bill, a joint venture with a group of war veterans already surveyed, those settling understand slavery is not allowed. Taxpayers shall all fund schools at all levels and freedom to worship according to the dictates of one's conscience. Manasseh Cutler wasn't even elected, but he has obviously, he's a genius, a good man. All of these states, but now people are going to rush to settle there. It's not just junk. We're going to take it. We don't know how to survey. We have no money.
Jim, didn't Washington give some of his officers tracts of?
That's right. That's coming up. See, that's how much they gave up. Why on earth? Here's why. Thank you. See, we're working together.
Yeah.
Well, this explains what I just said. The lawsuit that went on from 34 to 84. Here's Don't worry, everything is surveyed, it's 6 mile by 6 mile blocks. You know, don't worry, they're ready to move in and buy and produce, and. Okay, so what I'm gonna show you is that there's a whole list of amounts of acreage. That every officer, everyone was promised, and this will fulfill it. Cause they said, we will redeem your facelift. You know. This is where one man changed history. Cutler. In the negotiations. And by the way, he didn't mind selling shares in their company, the Ohio Associates. He didn't mind selling shares to congressmen. Don't worry, he just did everything. But then he said, there shall be neither slavery nor involuntary servitude in the said territory. Make the land worth having, he said, exclude slavery. If you have 10 plantations, you don't create a lot of population growth. We will buy your land and help you pay our debts, allow it to enter, and not a penny will we invest. Man, whoever said one person can't change the world,
What was his name again?
Manasseh Cutler. Don't name your kid Manasseh Cutler. There he is. This is what always irked me. This guy's amazing, but all the historians just look inside record of slow conventions. Now, your question is, did this have any effect on the convention? You know what the first thing they did the following Monday? 13 passes. It were good all around on Saturday and Sunday amongst all the delegates about the Northwest Passage. And this is Richard Henry Lee happily reported to Washington. Washington wanted it. And there's what you said. Real promises. It's gonna create cash.
The reason I knew this is that I'm from Ohio, and there's a town near Akron called Talmadge.
Yeah.
And it was the land that was given to Benjamin Talmadge, who was,
Right,
one of Washington's officers.
right.
Otherwise, I probably.
Okay, so the next morning came. The very first thing they do. Friday was the 13th. Saturday was the 14th. Sunday was the 15th. Monday was the 16th. The greatest compromise was adopted by the delegates of the Constitutional Convention. And all those things that were voted down on June 11th. The secretary for Madison, his name was Edward Cole, major figure. He said Rutledge drew his support for it because he said you didn't impair us having land that we can develop all the way to the Mississippi and sell tobacco. You didn't bother with the slave states, and you included a new proviso, a Fugitive Slave Act. We have the right to go into the Northwest Territory and reclaim our property. And for that, he was on board and the whole thing was solved. As much as we can expect. So are we doing all right? Those are the two huge things that you don't very seldom hear about. Now things are, you can hear that engines, the trains leaving. And Rutledge and Sherman are kind of like acknowledged as the rainmaker. You can just sort of see things are starting. Committee of detail, this is very important. There's the committee of detail, which is they pick a handful, and remember, this is the confidence of the other delegates, the ones they have observed and conclude they trust and they think are smart, and it is formed, it has the job of create the draft. This is the most important thing. And then the second most important is after it kicks out, there's still much more debate because slavery's still here. And then the final is called the Committee of Style, which is putting it all in elegant language. So obviously you wanna know what's going on inside the committee of detail, but now things are kind of going smooth sailing, things are kind of heading somewhere finally. Committees established by the United States, July 24th. And they're good, smart guys, they throw in some of the Virginia plan, they know what people want now. But they pull from everything, they go all over the place to pull things together. And I like this very much, one thing. This is so true. All they do, I'm afraid I heard someone gave a speech and I used the word loophole, but God, wrong word. This is their greatness. They were accused of hijacking the Constitution. And Rutledge was Sherman. Their goal was to insert essential principle only unless the operations of the government should be clogged, and by rendering those provisions permanent and unarguable. And down here, to use simple and precise language and general propositions according to the example. To make wording that is such articulate enough that it will connect with a lot of issues. It'll be called up in relation to many different situations, but not bind it to something. That's a real art. This is what someone called one of the genius of the Constitution. Yeah, well, we can go on. I'm not gonna do all this. And when they kicked it back out, in August, we're almost near the end now. What a surprise, Cindy. See, it comes out of the committee of detail, and finally everybody goes, that slavery stuff, so you woke up, hey, this is real. But everybody kind of knows it's either this or nothing. If you could summarize the convention, there was two groups in the beginning. It said, do this, I don't want to, do this, I don't want to, do this, I don't want to, I'm gonna leave, okay. Then with the slave issue, do this, I don't want to, do this, I don't want to, do that, I'm gonna leave, okay. But see, Gouverneur Morris is by far the most articulate on slavery. Upon the principle is that slaves should be computed in the representation of a man, then make them citizens and let them vote. Are they property? Why then is no other property included? The houses of the city of Philadelphia are worth more than all the wretched slaves which are in the rice swamps of South Carolina. Bam. And it doesn't work. It's money speaks. And all the Roger Shermans of the world have a very, you can see what he's saying. Oh man, it's gonna go away. Don't worry. Slavery's gonna be gone. That's not how money works. I'm for leaving the clause as it is. This is the 3/5 and the Fugitive Slave Act. I disapprove of slave trade, yet as the states were now possessed to the right to deport slaves as a public good. And that was, we got the idea. Don't worry. This abolition of slavery seems to be going out in the US. That was a very convenient, this is the most important thing. When you're playing a game like basketball or something, if you get them to play by your rules, you win. Nothing was more important. And frankly, this is what blocked Manasseh bringing up natural rights. Interest meant a lot more to them than it means to us. This guy is such a great trial lawyer, it's scary. Once you buy into this phrase, you have to accept slavery. Religion and humanity have nothing to do with this question of slavery. Swallow that. Interest alone, like Immanuel Kant, interest alone is the governing principle of nations. The true question at present is whether the southern states shall or shall not be parties to the union. Get it? This or nothing. And if the northern states consult their interest, they will not oppose the increase of slaves, which will increase the commodities, here we go again, of which they will become the carriers. Connecticut shippers and Rutledge. This is the key. We're not talking about those are certainties. We do Aristotle rhetoric. You don't do that. And once you buy that, you can't talk. And once again, they kind of, Connecticut, just to make things go forward, kind of say, yeah, not to worry, it'll go away. Now, it's fun to kind of say funny things about George Mason. Is there anybody who just really worships and prays for George Mason? Okay. In his lifetime, he owned 300 slaves, give or take, give or take. And then he stands up. The present question is they're not the importing states alone. The whole point, he goes on and on and on. Slavery discourages arts. He just kind of gave up. He's a slave holder. He talks about how terrible it is. Now, he's really easy to kind of poke fun at. Charles Pinckney, now we're hitting all the slavery reactions to the slavery elements of the Constitution. He said it's been around for 1,000,000 years. Don't worry about it. Poor George Mason. There was a point where he's arguing for a privy council. Remember, Washington gave enormous power in the Committee of Detail, and everyone likes that. But he started bringing up the Privy Council as a check to the power of the president, which is like a mild poke at Washington. And what he does is surprising. Just before the Committee of Style begins, George Mason, in a costly display of maladroit insult, argues heatedly against too much power in the president. He calls it the danger of despotism. And there's George, who doesn't even want. And he's pointing to the assumed first to be president, his neighbor, George Washington, calling him. And I swear, I checked 1,000,000 times. You'll never find it in his biography, though. Like the Signor, the grand Signor of this divan. Well, you don't do that with George. Once Alexander Hamilton was with Gouverneur Morris, they're both really close to George. Hamilton says, Gouverneur, go over and slap George on the back. He's looking at the fire. Just give him a slap on the back. Poor Gouverneur Morris. He takes the bait and he goes, "Hello, General, how do you feel today?" And he said, he turned around and gave me a look that made me want to crawl into a hole. So it adds up. So that point is, from that point on, Washington kind of checked him off the list, and he called him my quondam friend, which means one-time friend. We're almost done, everybody. So now we're getting a home stretch. All the wise men, William St. Rufus King, Madison's there out of hand. Of course, they made the writing good. But Gouverneur Morris is my last point, and then we can all say hallelujah. You have to remember, think of Abraham. Why is Shem bringing up Abraham Lincoln? Gouverneur Morris knew this. The preamble is important. Ask Thomas Jefferson. When he saw it, it says, we the people of the states, New Hampshire, there's all these states, declare the establishment of the following constitution. Forget the states. We, the people of the United States. Very important. Now, what's the comparison with Lincoln? Lincoln, all his life, said, whenever I thought of the opening of the Declaration of Independence, I took that as my mission. The Declaration of Independence was voted by an elected body, and they, he said, that's our creed. That's a companion piece with the operational constitution. This is our aspiration. why he said at Gettysburg 7 years ago, 1776, illegally, that's how, somebody will say, oh, he violated the Constitution. No, he did not violate the combination of the Declaration and the Constitution as one important legal document. So he's thinking of that. He wrote this, and you know, it was done in 4 days. 4 days. No arguing. Now this is the last thing I'm going to show you. If you get a lot of money, if businesses become bigger in capacity because of war and such, manufacturing, they make more and more money, which at some point starts under having more power than votes. This man was he was a head of a railroad, and it was a pivotal moment in American history. Remember, we people, doesn't say we the corporation. Bancroft Davis he was writing the Headnote, which is like a legal exploration of a decision by a court decision, by the Supreme Court. And he's the one where he changed, he said corporations are persons under the 14th Amendment within these headnotes. He wasn't even Supreme Court Justice. But nobody challenged it again and again and again, and just de facto became accepted. Just that it slopped through. That's how we got corporations or people. This is what Governor Morse was doing everything to avoid that. And then we had Citizens United. Creep, corruption creep. I can't believe it. We're on time and everything.
Awesome.
Yeah, okay. You know what the third thing was? Okay. After 70 were appointed to go by 12 states, Rhode Island, no show 55 attended, part are all signed, 3 names. Randolph, Mason, Albert Jerry said no. Now this is your happy go along with that. 9 of the 12 states needed to ratify at their upcoming conventions. June 21st, New Hampshire was the 9th state to vote yes, but still left for New York and the financial hub in Virginia, the political hub. If you don't have them, forget it. You're still not, you're just a bunch of little countries. June, you can be so proud of this. June 25, 1788, Virginia passed 89 over 79. Madison overcame Patrick Henry. The vote from the Western Virginia, 15 yes, 1 no. Local Major General Adam Stevens spoke for them. We, Madden, feel proud. The part of Virginia that is now West Virginia gave them the margin of victory, and it was a done deal now, because at that point, it was obvious that New York was going to join in. Thank you.
Yay.